Well, I'm gonna look dead in the camera, right? I'm gonna look dead in the camera right there. Be yourself, okay? That's the biggest thing. Be honest to yourself, to who you are.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of Secrets of Silent Success. Today we have the one and only Val of Val Cheesecakes. How are you doing this wonderful Monday?
Yes.
Oh, my bad. Motivation Monday.
Motivation Monday. We are solid. We are ready.
Gotcha.
We're ready for the whole week.
Gotcha. So tell me, who is Val?
That's a good question. Val is a Haitian, born and raised in Haiti, and I immigrated to the States in 1994, and I'm a baker. I'm a professional engineer as well. I'm a civil engineer, so that's never gonna go away.
Yeah.
I'm always gonna keep my license. I always gotta rep that.
Yeah.
I'm a gator, so and then I'm a big food eater.
Okay.
So I'm a big time. I support a lot of local businesses through my eating.
Sure.
And lastly, I'm just a person who believes in respect. When I tell you respect drives everything we do here at Val Cheesecake, it's about respect constant.
Gotcha,
so that's who I am.
So talk about Val Cheesecakes. How did it come about?
So I took care of my mom. I took care of my mom from 2008 until 2012. Mm-hmm. So my mom was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer, and I never told my mom that it was terminal. So somehow I convinced the doctor that it was to not go back into the room, because you're not supposed to do that as the doctor. You're just supposed to go back and tell the truth. So somehow I convinced the doctor to not tell the whole truth, complete truth. And I told my mom that we had that she had a chronic cancer disease. So my mom really never heard the word terminal.
Wow.
And she gave me, instead of 6 months, she gave me 4 years.
Wow.
And every Sunday we bake one cheesecake.
Mm-hmm.
So every single recipe that's on the menu, is a specific Sunday with my mom. So Val Cheesecake started after her passing in August of 2012. December 31st, 2012, I went down to the county and put my name, the Val Cheesecake name there.
Awesome. So correct me if I'm off on the timeline, but before the shack or maybe after the shack, you were having your cake sold inside of Oddfellows, correct? Was that before the shack?
You did your research,
right?
Didn't you? Yes, you did. All right, so they kick us out of the church.
Okay.
All right, and then, but before that, before being kicked out of the church, in 2013, I reached out to Matt Spillers, who's the owner of Oddfellows, and Bishop Arts, and then he said, bring one cheesecake. Okay. We brought 13 cheesecakes over, and then, because that's what you do. When people ask one, you brought you bring
it over to plus.
That's right. So we did that, and then so we started to sell at different restaurants around town. Espumoso Coffee Place. We got to the point where it was up to 15 different restaurants.
Wow.
So, and then I said, okay, we got some form of traction here.
Sure.
We have some type of social media presence. We have a demand. We have people coming to church asking for not to be saved, right? But to be to have some cheesecake. So I said, I think we have the making of a full-fledged brick and mortar business. So I kept my job. I was still an engineer. I kept my job up until all the way to 2017. But at that moment, right there, when that pastor said, you got to get out. And I found it was just a confluence of just getting kicked out, finding a place on Maple, and realizing that there were still a demand for the business, a valid business there.
Got you. So you talked about going to the owner of Oddfellows. He asked for one cheesecake, you give him 13. Where did the confidence and the charisma come from to be able to, because a lot of people are scared, even if you believe in your product, you don't know if others believe in your product. And so sometimes you may be apprehensive to go and solicit your services, your product. Where did that confidence come from, and what tips do you have for others trying to solicit their service or product?
I think it all goes back to the story. You know, it's a lot of times the confidence comes from watching my mom. You know, watching my mom for 4 years, like every single day, You know, that woman was literally dying every single day. And so I said, if my mom can do this, like can just withstand all the cords, all the tubes, everything, and then one specific moment that just flashes back in my mind is the specific, like when they are actually pulling the water out of my mother's back. And so she has to lean over a counter, and then they're putting a needle from the back that needs to go to the front of the lungs here. Wow. So it's a major pain. And I'm saying, if my mom can just stand for 4 years, go through that, I can surely have the gumption and the audacity to just go for it. So it's about your story. I think if you connect with your story, you know what you're doing this for. And I'm doing this for my mom. And I think as long as you connect with your story, you'll have that audacity to even show up with 13 cheesecake when they tell you. And he did tell me, Val, I told you to bring one, okay, but you bring 13. Yeah. And yes, and as a matter of fact, he carried more than the just one.
There you go. There you go. So it's all about connecting to that look inside.
That story,
Yeah, all about connecting to that personal story. So Oddfellows, and you're talking about opening up the shack, right? Opening up a brick and mortar, anything, is not an easy feat. So tell me a little bit of the process, what it took mentally, what it took financially to open up that first brick and mortar.
All right. I searched my heart and I searched my wallet. Okay? People have to, it's not just, oh yes, I just want to open a shop and sell peanut butter sandwiches and then that's it. No. You have to look financially if you have the funds to do it. I was working for 2015. I had 15 years of a 401k account. You know, a 401k account will do wonders.
It will.
All right. So if you don't have, if you don't have traditional savings, or if you go to a bank, you can go to a bank and ask for a loan and stuff, but you have to have your business together, your business plan together. So luckily, we had a business plan that we put together. We had sales numbers, and instead of going to a bank, I went to my 401k account. Now, making a loan against your 401k account and cashing a portion of it. So I decided this would be the best arrangement for me, viewing what I needed at that time, and that's exactly what I did. I looked at what I had invested for 15 years. Wow. And I said, I can borrow against that. I can return the fee to the interest on it, and I can still have my 401k. But eventually, the 401k, I cashed it out completely.
That's the entrepreneurial life.
So for me, I just used the degree I had to give me that 401k account, and that 401k account gave me the business. So civil engineering gave me this.
So Val Cheesecake is more than just selling cheesecakes, right? You have cooking with Val, you have public speaking, you have catering. How did you begin to diversify your portfolio of services, and what's the importance of diversification as an entrepreneur?
You know something, it's before you even get into diversifying your portfolio, you have to prove that the product works. And product working is not just having a good Saturday. And I think you need to make sure that you validate your business first. You make sure that you get those repeat customers, and making sure that the product is phenomenal, the reviews are phenomenal, the product tastes good. Sometimes we have to tweak. And even this year, we tweaked the red velvet cheesecake. The red velvet cheesecake now has a thicker crust. And then once you have a product that speaks volume, where you have people year after year who come to you for one cheesecake, that says a lot to me. So once you have those demands, and once you've proven that, now you can start working on diversity. It's not until 2020 really that I really got into focusing onto speaking engagement. I didn't even know that just speaking. I didn't know that me speaking about the business was a source of revenue. So really I focused for the past 5 years into just making sure that we can make good cheesecake that people like. And then eventually, I realized that it was COVID really that got me into thinking, I need to shake it up a little bit. I need to do classes. I need to do speaking engagements and catering. Even this year, 2021 is when we realized I need to pay special attention to the catering customer. And now we're structuring the business in order to, we're moving to a new location, which will have a bigger baking hub, which will have a bigger kitchen, and that bigger kitchen will focus on the shipping, the catering, the classes, the stuff, because it's a venue space as well.
Okay.
So,
congrats, that's awesome.
Thank you. So to diversify your business, I think you need to make sure the product speaks volume. Just is hands down. You have the press coverage, you have the customer coverage, you have a team. Okay, wait, because we haven't talked about team yet.
Yeah.
So you have a team that can reproduce the product constantly.
There you go.
You know, no matter what type of supply shortage you have, team shortage, you have somehow a classic cheesecake with strawberry preserve makes its way to the customer. So I think focusing on production and consistency before going into diversification. Is that the right word? Okay, all right.
Gotcha. So it's a lot to unpack there. The first thing I'll say is you sound like an engineer when we're talking about cheesecakes, which is great. Even when I go to the Instagram looking at how they're constructed, and you talk about refining the crust. I know you talk about technology, you talk about engineering. It's always those minor tweaks can make the biggest difference, right?
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about that mindset and how you have applied it to your business, because sometimes you think, I need to go to culinary arts school to be able to do this. Well, no, what you learned over here can cross over to what you're doing now. So talk about that a little bit.
Yes. For sure, I think about one of the aspects of my engineering life that I try to impart here is the management of team members and how to grow a good team and try to lift up the team members and so they can move on to not just staying here at Val Cheesecake, but move on to better things.
Sure.
So one other aspect is a pay rate, an honest pay rate. All right. So the service industry is known for exhaustion, for exhausting people and not paying people, not having the quality of life. But we are building people into a position. We build position around people. We look at the person is working, you know, and we build some type of position around that person. And that's something I did on my engineering side in building positions for people, building a team member strong that can build the right roads, the right canals and stuff like that. So for example, here we have a team member that has progressed from being just a baker to all the way a manager. And now after 3 years, that pay rate is no longer what it used to be. So if he leaves, right? If he leaves Val's Cheesecakes, his life is forever changed. You cannot pay him this anymore. Because he was making this much at Val Cheesecake. So that's something that I pride myself on, making sure that people are paid right and fairly and ethically. I have a PE license. And one of the big things about holding a PE license is ethics, and ethics is strong for me. You gotta be ethical and pay people the right wages so they can move on and grow with you.
To take it back to the team portion really quick, you said something interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like instead of making people fit into a position, you're tailoring positions to people.
Yes.
Right? Sounds very, I'm a big sports fan, right? And you're not gonna go make the 6-foot guy play center, you're gonna groom him a position for him, right? Basketball is almost positionless now because of that. So my question for you is, I believe that in our business as well, but how do you scale that? Because that takes a lot of fine tuning. It takes a lot of resources and man hours, managers. So what's your thought process behind scaling that catering ideology, if you will?
The catering, That's a good question. You're good. All right. I think the way I scale that is we've really started this about 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago. And we really started because before we didn't have, when I started this business, there were no job description. Can you pour flour into a bowl? Can you do that? You're hired.
Yeah.
That's it.
Can you show up on time?
Yeah, can you show up? Yeah. Oh my God, let's not go there. That's a whole different conversation. So we started with some job description at the baker level. Okay. And then right now we're moving into, we've moved into catering positions for the management team and seeing who will be a better, like in terms of branding, in terms of operation and maintenance, who fits that personality more. Sure. So we started with that, and then now we're gonna make our way to the senior bakers and then the bakers and so on. And I think having a consistent job description, consistent pay, all right, and consistent training will help with that. So that's how I hope I answer your question about scaling that. But we would start at the manager level and then move down to the senior baker and baker level.
And when I hear a lot, it's pay and consistency. Consistency with training, consistency with job descriptions, and then having pay that's competitive. And like you said, now you have set up an individual for a better quality of life because he's a manager here making this. He's not going to go back to making less.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. And that's exactly what I was doing. As an engineer, that's exactly the type of training, the type of mentorship that I got. And I had a very strong mentor till this day. This mentor, she is working in my life. She is an engineer herself. And she groomed me to expect, to demand a certain salary and a certain quality of life. And that's what I want for my team members at Val. I want the same thing. I want them to be able to leave Val Cheesecake and go somewhere else and exactly, I want this because I'm worth this.
Absolutely. Mic drop right there. We got
okay, where is the mic?
That was good shit. So switching gears a little bit, social media. You have over 30,000 followers on Instagram, and you don't just promote the cheesecakes. You're talking about social and community causes and issues. Obviously, you do your cheesecake, and then you also just get on there and dance and have a party sometimes, right? So what's your approach to social media, and what advice do you have for other entrepreneurs when it comes to social media? Because some of us, including myself, are like, I'll stay away from the camera, but you don't seem to shy away from it.
Well, I'm gonna look dead in the camera, right? I'm gonna look dead in the camera right there. Be yourself, okay? That's the biggest thing. Be honest to yourself, to who you are. And for the past 6 years, I've had a lot of marketing firms that tell me, hey, our retainer is this. We would love to work on this project for you and stuff like that. And it's not that they're not of value. That's not it. But I've just always felt this authentic level and honesty that I exude. I would like to think that I exude.
Yes, there.
And it's always been completely natural. There's nothing scripted. But after 6 years, we are finding that we need a little bit of standardization in terms of the social media. It's always been me being nosy in my customer's life. Like if a customer wears a nice dress, I'm gonna comment on that. If they just had a baby, I'm gonna comment on that. And that keeps you, honestly, that keeps you invested in your customer's life. But also, that customer remembered, oh, Val commented on my dress. You know something? I'm going to a shindig this week, so I'm gonna get a cheesecake.
There you go.
So it helps you both ways, but most importantly, it helps you to stay in contact with your customers.
Got you. So we talked about this a little bit at the front of the interview. You had your 9 to 5, right? You said your 9 to 5 is what put Val's Cheesecake into being, right? So a lot of times 9 to 5s in corporate America and your standard jobs get a negative connotation, especially where everybody wants to be their own boss. But you use that as a leveraging point to get where you are today. So just talk a little bit about that journey from your 9 to 5 and how you used it as leverage to, build what you have today.
I never hated engineering. It was never about me just hating my 9 to 5. And I do know some people who hate their 9 to 5 job.
Sure.
I loved doing my job as an engineer. I might not have liked some of the people I worked with.
Sure. Sure.
I might not have liked some of the interactions, but I've always appreciated, I went to school for it, and making that decision was mainly, I have a story that I needed to tell. My mom had passed away, and I was baking cheesecake, not only for just because that's what we shared, but also as a therapy session.
Wow.
I was using that as a lot of therapy sessions. There was a lot of days I had a lot of unrest, emotional unrest, and I would be baking at the church, and I would solve all those emotional unrest through baking cheesecakes. So in 2015, making that transition was, I have a story that I need to tell. I need to tell the story of how I care for my mom, what my mom made me do days after work, getting off from work and getting Peruvian sweet potatoes, all right? Looking all around town to find Peruvian sweet potatoes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
that's ex-guts, y'all. All right, so I needed to tell her story, and it was something natural. Until this day, I still pull out my engineering stamp and stamp some things. You know, our new location on Ackerd is, some of the plans were reviewed by me and stamped by me. So it's never gonna go away, and we have clients from firms who still come in and say, hey, I know you're doing this thing, but if you ever want to do engineering again, till this day, I'm talking today.
That's awesome.
They've come in, and you never know. I love my business, and I want to continue to tell the business of Val's Cheesecakes, and it doesn't hurt. It's not a bad thing if you keep your job while you're doing it. I kept it up until 2017. Wow. So I had this business for 5 years.
Yeah.
And during those 5 years, I still had my engineering job. Wow. And I squeezed every single bit. Literally, financially, I squeezed. In 2017, I said, all right, I'm going to just cash out my 401k, live on it for a while, and then open this shop. So that's exactly what I did, and there's no regret at this point. It's just a natural thing, and if it doesn't feel natural, don't do it. You know, if you don't feel natural enough to quit your job and to tell another story about you, about your life, don't do it. You know, it got to be natural.
So yeah, I can see whiteboards and posters about all the strategies that you all are looking to do with the new location, and you're talking about doing this 6-7 years in. But what are some of your thoughts and advice for those who are just getting into a product-based industry? How do they get the wheels going to build a successful business based on a product?
I think what I've come to really realize is the first 3 years of the business, we were trying a lot of different cheesecakes, literally different flavors, and I realized even one of my favorite businesses in town, and they're good friends of mine, and I go there a lot to eat a lot. It's just Mesero Kitchen. It's Mesero. All right, so I realized what makes Mesero great is consistency. Every time you go there, the Brendan drink, there's a drink called Brendan, which is a margarita, tricolor margarita. It's always gonna be the same. It's always gonna look, and you know that once you go there, it's always gonna be the same.
Yeah.
And I think if we had focus on that initially, just not just me trying to tell a story, because telling a story, yes, it's nice, but it cuts both ways too.
Sure.
So I spent a lot of time trying to tell the stories, trying to have show the different cheesecakes that my mom made, and I led with heart a lot. Sure. And I did not lead with a little bit of brain.
Yeah, I got you.
So it's not to say that Val Cheesecake hasn't had their hard time. There were times where I was going home crying. I said, this business is never gonna work.
Sure.
All right, so the first years were very tough, and it's after 6 years that I've learned the lesson that I hope people getting into the business now focus on consistently. If you're doing oxtail, consistently provide the amount of gravy, the amount of potatoes that are supposed to be in the oxtail.
Sure.
With the rice. If that's what you're doing. If it's a t-shirt, make sure it's consistently embroidered in a way that you like, and make sure that you are consistently providing the same service, the same business every time. Every pop-up, every time you show up at the Dallas Farmers Market or any market, that apple strudel cookie needs to be the same. It needs to be wrapped the same. The branding, the stickers need to be the same consistently. So to me, that's my biggest lesson that I've learned. And the second lesson that I want to share is that right now we're moving into saving for buying a piece of land.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Congrats
Until
on that.
you buy your land that your business sits on, Val Cheesecakes here on Greenville, I don't own the building.
Sure.
I don't own the parking lot, the land. And until you own your land that your business is on, you're in la-la land.
Yeah.
Okay? Literally, and you are at the mercy of whenever things might change in the economy, how a landlord feels and stuff, you're at the mercy of that. So that is the two lessons: consistency, and then start saving dollar by dollar for a piece of land that you can buy and put your business on.
Yeah,
or leverage that land for the business.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I think it was the owner of McDonald's was like, I'm not in the hamburger business, I'm in the real estate business.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about the land.
The land is important. I learned my lesson. I know now.
It's all about the land. So I don't have any empirical stats in front of me about the amount of Black males in the baking industry, but I imagine that number is low, all right? So tell me about your experiences as a Black male in the baking industry.
I think there's about, literally, I think in terms of brick and mortar in this town, there's about three or four fully vetted bakery brick and mortar that are functioning, that are owned by Black males.
Wow.
And at the beginning of the business, I don't know if you look at my social media, at the very beginning, there was never a sight of Val Cheesecake, of Val. Who is Val?
Who's Val, yeah.
There was just the product, because I felt literally, and this is something I've said many times, I felt that if I put myself out there, they would brand me as it must be cheesecakes for African Americans, for Black people. I have several business owner friends who do skin products, and a lot of time that skin product is not for a specific demographic. It's for everybody who wants good skin. Sure. And they get branded. Oh, that might not be for me. That might be for a specific demo. There's nothing wrong with that if you're going that route.
Sure, if you're going more niche.
But there's a tendency for a lot of people to brand you as, you must be a Black business for Black people, for providing, I don't know, I can't even, it's like Black cheesecakes?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. So there was a initial set of mind, let me try to capture as much of the audience I can by hiding who I am. Okay. And I learned along the way that I don't need to do that.
Gotcha.
Because the story speaks for itself.
Sure.
It's about connecting to a story that everybody will gravitate to. But if your story doesn't connect to everybody, it just connects to one demographic. If that's what you want it to be, yes, that's fine.
Sure.
But I wanted my story to impact more than just one race, and I wanted it to touch people, and because I think having cancer and having a mother die from cancer is something that everybody can connect to. And lastly, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. My name is Valery Jean Bart. People a lot of times think I'm a girl. So they're expecting Val to be a girl. There are people walking into Val Cheesecakes right now. Where is she?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sitting right there, and they're asking, where is she? Or some dubious people.
Yeah.
Like they come around and say, oh yeah, I talked to Val. She told me this and this. I'm like, really? You talked to Val? Yeah. You did. What did she tell you?
Yeah.
So it's not easy being, because a lot of people are expecting you to be a certain way.
Sure.
And to act a certain way.
Sure.
And this is all around. This is not just, let's just be honest and frank. It's not just white people, it's everybody. Black people, everybody expecting you a certain way.
Yeah.
And
we have these preconceived notions that we've just been ingrained by society that we all are kind of.
Oh my God, you get it.
Yeah, I got
so
you.
You should be a certain way. You should talk a certain way.
Yeah.
You could, if you talk a certain way, that means you're some kind of sellout.
Yeah.
And so there are preconceived ideas for Black males, period.
Sure.
And once you narrow that down to the bakery world, and then once you narrow down that to the bakery world in Dallas,
sure,
it's even there are more preconceived ideas. But at this point, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be authentic to who I am and stick with that.
There you go.
And I think it's paying. So far,
it's paying off.
It's been paid. Yeah.
That's part two. That's an episode by itself. Talking about those preconceived notions and labels and breaking out of those. Right. So we'll say that for part two.
Yes.
The last thing I would talk about, and you said so much about your story. You talked so much about your mother, and I feel that passion. I feel that purpose behind it. What would you say to others who are searching for that story? Right, or some who may need to change their story. Like you talked about, you changed chapters. You love engineering. You still do love it.
Yes.
Right, but you just flipped to another chapter.
Yeah.
Right. So talk about finding your purpose or changing the chapter to a different purpose.
Whew. This is possibly the toughest questions you had. How do you, if you're searching for that story, I say consistently be who you are. Yeah. Consistently show up every day. And consistently, there's 4 words here: love, grace, dignity, and respect. I was telling somebody this morning about, so this person has gone through a lot. Okay. This person has lost financially, they've lost a lot. They've been emotionally through a lot, and I told them, listen, you have your name, and your name, meaning the way you show up every day, makes people want to come to you, makes people want to offer you opportunities, make people want to connect with you. And that's something that this person has literally. Yep. The person has nothing today. Okay, the person has no savings. And I told that person, listen, you have your name. And from what I'm seeing, you get pulled in things, you get connecting, you get network, you get to me, it's like the person is moving at a faster rate in terms of finding their stories because they're authentically themselves. And every day they show people love, grace, dignity, and respect. If you got that, I think you can find that story will eventually come to you. You feel me?
Mic drop.
We keep dropping mics, but I'm like, I need a spatula. We need
a spatula drop. We're gonna get a video of you dropping the spatula.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Val.
Thank you, sir.
This was great, man. I look forward to another.